Everybody, Jeff and Ron with you here today, around the nation, right here, TYT Nation. Hey, how's it going, everybody? How's it going, Ron?
It's good, buddy. How are you?
Weird question. Rhetorical question
sure
to the audience.
I thought you were gonna do more with that. I thought there was more of an intro. How's it going, everybody? Special shout out to whomever.
No. You know why?
I didn't
because
know.
I'm not
I'm not
refined.
everybody.
I'm not that refined. I'm not that good at this. I'm bad at this.
I was kind of waiting for more of an intro. I wasn't gonna jump
bad.
in yet.
It was bad. Super bad. Okay. Anyway,
it would
but
have
the
been
rest
weird
of the show
if I
is
just
good.
responded. How are you, everybody? I'm good, Jeff, and I'm everybody. Marvel at my importance.
Absolutely.
As I am everybody.
Yeah. So that's the kind of week I'm having so far.
I had a weird morning too, man.
Yeah.
Had an incident trying to make some lamb curry. Long story, but I still got 8 days of this goofy diet I'm on, and I shouldn't say it's goofy. It's been good. It's been rewarding, but I'm ready for it to be over because it's a lot of work. The Whole 30 for anyone that I know I've talked about it before, but yeah, I'm on the Whole 30 diet. If anyone knows what that is.
No, that sounds like a disaster. You know that, right?
It's you're not allowed to have pasta, you're not allowed to have rice, you're not allowed to have sugar, you're not allowed to have joy. A lot of stuff you're just not allowed to have. It's just a lot of work because you have to prepare a lot of foods in advance. I'll think I'm a couple meals ahead, and then I'll realize, oh shit, what am I gonna eat tonight? Can't have dairy, by the way, I didn't mention that. So this morning I had to get, and you do a lot of crock potty type stuff. So this morning I had to get some lamb curry going, and I was scrambling to find ingredients. Somebody in my household put my curry paste somewhere else. I didn't know it, so that was a little irritating. And then I had an issue with a can. Long story. Anyway, left-handed people are not good with can openers, by the way. I'm a left-handed person. Can openers are our weakness, so there's that.
So sounds like your diet is going basically as you would expect for a diet.
Yeah, pretty much.
Just
pretty
awful.
much. I'm ready for it to be over.
It's
just a lot of work.
Yeah. That again, that sounds awful. I'd rather be fat, which I already am. So.
No, you're a handsome young man.
You're just lying to me now. You were a horrible liar. Okay. Anyway, I forgot where I was going to go with that, but anyway, and yeah. By the way, I'm reading the chat, and somebody asked, why does Ron need a diet anyway?
Aw, you're very kind. Thank you. Well, it's supposed to it's going to do more than just a diet. It's supposed to cleanse your body or whatever, and then you're going to have healthier eating habits in the future. I know it's not necessarily pseudoscience. It's just, I don't know, it's just taking a stab at something, but it's supposed to kind of cleanse your system because you're not having all these kind of things that you're used to, like sugars and shit like that. So then when you come back to it, maybe you find out, I shouldn't be, in my particular case, I shouldn't be eating pasta as often as I do, and I don't crave it as much anymore. My body's not depending on it as much anymore, so I'm going to cut back, that sort of thing. And, but I would like to lose a little weight, and I'm happy to report that 22 days into the diet, I've already lost 4 friends. So there you go.
Boy, that is a lot of weight. That's got to be a couple 100 pounds. So, yeah.
No, I haven't lost any friends. It's actually been fun in a weird way.
For me, I know I'm going to die, so I might as well just die enjoying the things that I like. That's it.
We all die at the end of this.
Yeah, we all die. Right. No, it doesn't matter how many times you cleanse or how much kale you eat. You're going to die. You're going to die. And it lights out. You're done. Might as well enjoy it while, drinking a couple of beers and eating a fucking steak on the way out. That's the way I look at life anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to enjoy it. God damn it. I'm going to wear this whole thing out. But anyway. Let's get to some actual news that's going on. But first I want to address the terrorist attack in Manchester. So I just want to, my thoughts are with the people in Manchester. I don't do thoughts and prayers. Although what I just said was probably about the equivalent of doing so. But nonetheless, I feel really bad for everybody in Manchester. And also, there was an attack in, I believe, the Philippines as well. That is a terrorist. That like terrorists are literally fighting people in the streets in Marawi, I think. So can't forget about that. Even though it's not happening to, white people, we also need to remember those people as well. So thoughts go out to them. Anyway, so we've got a lot of progressive news today. A lot of news about the Democratic Party where we're going to go after them. Because that's what we do on Tuesdays. This is like a mini version of aggressive progressives, I think. That's what this has turned into. Which, that's not a bad thing at all. I actually very much enjoy that. So we'll do that. We'll go after the Democratic Party in an effort to make them better, at least. At least that's how I look at it. I don't know if you look at it that way, but,
Look, we'll look at what way? What do you mean exactly?
At criticizing the Democratic Party in order to make it better or to make it more progressive.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that there's we talk about this on the show all the time. When you don't have the House, you don't have the Senate, you don't have the White House, more people are jumping ship from your party like it's the Titanic.
Yep.
Yeah, it's time for some really, really significant house cleaning. So absolutely.
Significant indeed. So
and some people say you're hateful when you do that, but I don't understand what's hateful about wanting everybody in this country to have health care and wanting affordable educational opportunities and wanting to end the wars and wanting to have a Green New Deal. And the time for it is now. If history is going to repeat itself, we're ready for another sharp left turn, similar to what we were ready for during the FDR age. And right now, the Democrats are missing a golden opportunity. Pointing that out doesn't make you hateful. It makes you awake. It makes you paying attention, and it makes you concerned about the future of your country. So
it also apparently makes you sexist. That's what I hear.
Of course,
from Peter Dow.
yeah. Of course, we're all sexist, Bernie bros.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Sorry, I almost forgot. Forgot for a second.
So
what's funny?
Yeah.
Can I tell a story on that? I know obviously you were saying it in jest, but
Of course.
I had a bit of a heated discussion recently with somebody that's a colleague of mine that my opinions are slightly to the left of, and I just want to throw this out there. I've supported single payer for a really, really long time now. And the reason that I started supporting it as a young person is because I have a vivid memory that I'll never forget for the rest of my life, I don't think. My girlfriend at the time, this was when I was about maybe 20 years old, I think, maybe 21. And she was a couple years younger. She was 18. And her father had just or I might only have been 20. Anyway, it's not important. But her father and her did not have the best relationship in the world. And once she had turned 18, he dropped her off his health insurance. Like, not right away, but eventually, like, one day he just decided, hey, you're not on my health insurance anymore because I don't have to have you. So, like, I have these vivid memories of her calling me crying that she wasn't going to have health care anymore. And it was brutal. I was a college kid myself, like 1 or 2 years older than her. Like I never experienced this situation before. I never knew that was a problem that, a young person could have. And, I kind of looked into it and learned. And ever since that day, I supported single payer. I was like, it's a crime that there's people in this country that don't have health insurance. And So it's really that much shittier when you talk about something like single payer and somebody calls you a sexist Bernie bro, because I mean that's just so ridiculous on so many levels. And on a personal level for me, considering the reason I support this platform initially out the get-go, what turned me on to being a progressive was concerns for a girlfriend. It's like, you've got to be shitting me.
It's also a concern about people in general.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm not trying to get on a soapbox, but
No.
there are times where that story, like thinking about that, and I have been called a sexist Bernie bro. For the only reason being, I support Bernie Sanders' platform. That's it. That I support Bernie Sanders' platform. What that has to do with being sexist, I have yet to find out. You have yet to find out. But I've been called that before, and when you take a step back and think about it, it's very insulting, and that's
Incredibly.
what's hateful.
It's
That's one
yeah.
single payer. It's not hateful. That's the shit that's hateful.
Yeah, and actually going against, people who want to institute things like single payer, that's actually, I think, much, much worse than anything that they could throw at us. Actually being
I
against policy positions that care for everybody as opposed to just those who could afford it. But anyway, we do have some healthcare related stuff that I want to go over with you too.
Cool. Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I didn't mean to derail things there.
no, that's fine. No, that's a good story though. I mean, just the fact that we have that situation in this country where you can get dropped from healthcare and you don't know what you're going to be doing afterwards, and you have to call up someone and you're so upset because I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm not going to have healthcare. I'm not going to get my whatever screenings that I need to get, or if I get sick, I'm not going to have this option to be able to go to a doctor. What am I supposed to do? And
Hmm.
again, it's amazing having having that whole situation in this country.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's unbelievable.
It's absolutely unbelievable. So, okay, so like I said, we got a bunch of stories. I feel like we should probably start on this healthcare study. Then, I think based on the story, it's a great segue to this. Um, there's a new study out about like how much of an embarrassment our healthcare system is. This is great. All right. Now, a new study out reveals how much of an embarrassment our healthcare system is, and this is not my words. This is the words of somebody who actually did the study. Now, this is comes from a recent article in the Washington Post that detailed this study into what's been called amenable mortality. That's pretty much a nice way of saying this is the amount of deaths that you could have avoided if you offered health insurance or health care to everybody. And it says it's death that could have been avoided by timely and effective medical care. So let me read you some of the details about this story. Now, this was done by Christopher Murray, a researcher at the University of Washington, and his collaborators looked at 32 causes of death in 195 countries from the years of 1990 to 2015. And basically, they did that. They looked at this in order to create a healthcare quality index they used to create a ranking of all these different countries. So, what were the
Hmm.
main findings in this? He found that, unsurprisingly, having a strong economy does not guarantee good health care. Unsurprising, like I said. Having great medical technology doesn't either. We know this because people are not getting the health care that should be expected for diseases with established treatments. So, that's their words, but basically broken down simply is we have the money, we have the technology, but because we don't guarantee health care to everyone as a human right, there are people that die because they can't get the treatment because they can't afford it. And of course, Murray called that fact disturbing, which I think we should all agree, but strangely enough, in this country, we can't all seem to agree. Isn't that weird? And that's not a rhetorical question, but so let me get you some. Since this is a ranking, let me give you some of the um, details on the countries that scored the best on this index. You will not be surprised about this, Ron. Many highly developed nations, such as Norway, Australia, and Canada, scored well and actually scored better than the United States. Any now, what do those countries have in common?
They all have universal or universal-esque at the very least
Mm-hmm.
systems.
Oh, so they guarantee, or for the most part, guarantee health care to all of their citizens.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really weird. We get told by right wingers and corporate Democrats all the time that we can't do that, and that for-profit healthcare is actually better and more efficient, and you have better outcomes with that. Oh, no, we have the best healthcare in the world. Yeah, we do if you can pay for it, if you can afford it, which a lot of people cannot. Now, where's the
Right.
United States? We score 80 on the index, right? Which is actually the bottom of the second decile and puts us on par with Estonia and Montenegro. Now, look, a higher score is better. It goes probably up to 100. So being in an 80, we're not the best, but we're certainly not the worst. In fact, we could be much, much worse. For example, you have countries like Sub-Saharan Africa, or countries in Sub-Saharan Africa, Libya, India, and Syria. Look, those countries obviously are doing way worse, but there are problems with that. They're not wealthy countries, and a lot of them happen to be very war-torn countries as well.
Right.
But
When the bar that we're trying to reach is in comparison to other countries that are war torn, that are developing, that do not have the amount of wealth we do, that's sad. That's not where our bar should be. Our bar should be against the other industrialized nations. It should be against France, Italy, Germany, Canada, England, Ireland, et cetera, Australia even.
and we're
Because
losing.
we always pretty much rank below them in the World Health Organization, and people try to discredit that. People try to say, well, why do people come here for such and such? Why? Yeah, we have the resources and the skills
And the
to be
technology.
probably the best healthcare system in the world, because we have the resources and the medicine to really make a difference in people's lives, as far as the availability of doctors and stuff like that. But what good is that if you don't get to see them? What good is that if preventative care is flushed down the toilet because there's not enough profit in it? That's why we have the ranking that we do, and it's a deserved ranking.
Yeah. So something that we actually do well in, surprisingly, is measures well for diseases preventable by vaccines. And this is despite the efforts of anti-vaxxers. So we're actually doing one thing right, is vaccinating people. So keep getting the vaccines. They're actually good. They're actually helpful. Unlike what our president believes. They do not cause autism. Just saying. Now, we also do well against diphtheria and measles. However, we do get failing grades for 9 other conditions that can lead to death. These are lower respiratory infections, neonatal disorders, non-melanoma skin cancer, Hodgkin's lymphoma, heart disease, hypertensive heart disease, diabetes, chronic kidney disease, and the adverse effects of medical treatment itself. Because again, we're really more into the treatment industry and less like curing. So some of the treatments, it's more of like, let's try to extract more money from you by doing these treatments instead of actually getting to the cause of the problem. And again, that has something to do with our for-profit health insurance industry.
Well, of course, and not only that, but and I'm no doctor, neither are you, Jeff. But
No, of course not.
one of the things a lot of those conditions have in common is a lot of them are very preventative, with more preventative care. When you
Right.
have a health insurance industry like ours, you have a lot of people, they don't get that yearly checkup. They're like, oh, well, I'm young and I'm healthy enough. They don't go, and hey, I'm guilty of that, man. I don't go
Me
to the
too.
doctor and I actually, I do have health insurance. I have health insurance through the ACA, and it's affordable. But, I don't always, my deductibles are not the greatest and stuff like that. I don't always go to the doctor as often as I should. I should be getting a checkup, I'm old enough for that. We both are. I mean, you should be getting them. You
Don't.
should be getting them no matter how old you are, in my humble opinion. But, people don't do that. And a lot of stuff, is linked to our food culture. Obviously some diabetes is genetic and you're going to get it no matter what. But others is type 2 and so forth. That's brought on by a lot of our food culture in this country. Same with a lot of heart disease. So there's a lot of different preventative things that other countries are way better at than us that we're not so good at. And that's why we have those low scores. I mean, some of the food in our country is illegal in other countries,
Yeah.
because it's just so, over processed, and there's not anything real in it in terms of nutrients and stuff like that. And hey, man, I'm as guilty as anybody else. I'll tell you what, for a special treat, I like a good Kraft macaroni and cheese. I really do. And I feel bad for other countries that don't get to enjoy it. It's terrible for you, but it is delicious. But it is exactly what I described, or it should
Yeah.
be what I described. It should be a special treat. That's considered a vice. That's a vice if you're going to do that.
Hmm.
That doesn't mean you shouldn't do it, but it should not be a health part of a balanced meal. It really shouldn't be. It should
Right.
be like a special treat. If you're a kid, you should get it as a treat. If you're an adult and you still love it, it should be a treat. And believe me, I've not followed my own advice, especially in my early 20s when money was very scarce and those things can be on sale of 10 for 10 sometimes.
Oh yeah.
I've not always followed my own advice. But it kind of goes into that kind of goes into all this as well. It's our lifestyle choices and our system that has. I would go as far as to say pretty much no focus on preventative care.
Yeah, and that is what Murray says contributes to our embarrassment. He said America's ranking is essentially an embarrassment. He also noted that the health spending per person, and again, this is related to not being able to get that preventative care, is about $9,000 annually, and is more than that of any other country in the world. So in the developed world. So, I mean, we have that lack of access to health care, especially preventative care. Of course, you're going to drive up costs. Now, that's good for some people, the health insurance industry, who can charge you more, or the healthcare industry itself that can charge you more, but not so good for regular people, especially those who can't afford that $9,000 annually per person, or however much it ends up being, if you have a serious condition or anything like that. So, right there, I mean, that kind of makes this whole thing worse. Right now we're getting ripped off, man. We spend more, we get less, and it's primarily because of that corporate greed that is involved in our healthcare. So the fact that we have for-profit anything in our healthcare system, that's the problem. That's why we're on par with Montenegro for healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
No offense, Montenegro, but we could do better than you. We have
Well,
the
and that's
power.
another thing that the right does to try to. I mean, and that's a straw man. When they're like, "Oh, you don't like the healthcare here, you don't like the educational opportunities here. Go to, and then they name some war-torn country or some developing country or some country that's in poverty that doesn't have clean drinking water. Go
Venezuela?
there and tell me how hard you have it." Blah, blah, blah. It's like that's a straw man. I mean, it's terrible what goes on in the world, but the fact is, we live in the wealthiest country in the world. But the wealth disparity is very problematic, and it's crony capitalism that has gotten us here. So, I mean, statements like that are just they're
Ridiculous.
just straw man. Yeah, they're just straw men, and it's very yeah. I mean, it's very much just trying to draw attention away from the actual issue.
How about instead of, saying that and telling people who want to have a better system to leave, and by the way, everybody would benefit from that better system, I guess, except for the rich who would pay a little bit more. Um,
But
how
we're
about instead
already
of saying
paying
that,
more.
what's that?
I don't even know if that's true, Jeff. I mean, we're already. I mean, a
We're,
lot of
we're
those
already
other
paying more than
statistics
anyone.
that you can get.
Yeah.
What do you mean? What?
We're already, well, we as a country are already paying more than any other country for health care. So I'm just
Right.
saying a little bit more in taxes.
Oh, well, yeah, absolutely. But the thing is like we're already spending that money, and that doesn't
Yeah.
exclude the rich. I mean, we already because when someone shows up at the ER, they're not refused treatment. They're treated, which they should be. But
Right.
because of our system, who ends up paying for that? Well, everybody. Everybody ends up paying for that. So we're already. I mean, the statistics are out there where we're already paying more and getting less when it comes to our health insurance dollars, which is just basic. It makes basic sense when you have a for-profit middleman in between you and hospitals and doctors. Obviously, that's going to happen. So, regardless of how rich or not rich you are, that statistic applies to you too. So I don't see. I mean, I know
Okay.
people. I mean, I do know a handful of people that are incredibly wealthy and admit they're like, look, I'm part of the 1%. But when it comes to healthcare, I'm a straight up socialist. There should be there should be nobody that goes uncovered in this country. And if we did a single payer system, it would be better for everyone, even me. And I think that's
Which it would
important
be.
to harp on
Yeah.
because part of the reason that's keeping it from us is the donors and the insurance lobby. But if other people in the 1% kind of came around to, you know what, we'd all be better off with this, even us. The only people that wouldn't be are the are the leeches that are benefiting from this system. But they can go find another line of work. They can
Point
go find
taken.
something else.
Point taken. But the whole point that I wanted to get around to is instead of complaining about people who want to fix the system, let's just fix the system. Let's make it better. Instead of telling them, oh, just leave and go find something else. No. See, I'm a patriot, and I believe what we can do better. Are you not a patriot? Because obviously you're saying that someone else has a better system, and you'd rather people go there instead of fix it here. Well, then you're not a patriot. We're the patriots
Right.
because we see a problem in our country that's affecting millions of Americans, and we want to make it better. That makes us more patriotic than you. Sad. And look, as far as new health, as far as what we can do, what the solutions are, Obamacare, as you point out, rightly so, Band-Aid on a broken arm. We already have a solution. It's called Medicare. And we should probably use it.
Yep. And it's the most popular healthcare system in this country. People love Medicare. They can't wait until they can get on it. So let's
All right.
expand that and have Medicare for all. Let's do that.
That's the smart way to go. Let's see if we go in that direction. Hey, you know what? We are, actually. But let's that gets us into the next story, right? And I know Ron, you and I were talking about before the show about this, so I think you'll enjoy this. Now, Medicare for All is incredibly popular with the American people, and the whole program, Medicare itself, is the most popular program in America. Now, especially among Democrats, but among Republicans as well. In fact, as far as Medicare for All goes, over 80% of Democrats are in favor of it. So it's incredibly popular. It's very, very popular. Now, activists are, of course, they're fired up because we actually see that there's a chance to start the conversation on getting Medicare for all. Now, this one of the great things about going through the era of Trump and having Trump care fail so spectacularly is that it actually got the ball rolling on having a conversation. People are, fired up. They're like, let's go do something better. Obamacare is not perfect. Trump care is awful. How about we go to Medicare for all? So, it's time to get with the rest of the world and guarantee health care for everyone. Now, inside the Democratic Party, we seem to be having a different discussion, right? They should be pushing this as a whole. And yes, it's in the party platform. But you see people out there like DNC Chair Tom Perez that aren't exactly pushing this, that are avoiding the question, that aren't really talking about this issue or a lot of other issues. And because of that, he keeps getting protested everywhere he shows up. Ron, I know you've been telling me, and we've been seeing videos of this every time. They went on the Bernie Sanders and Perez went on this so-called unity tour, right? And every time Tom Perez got up to the mic, boo.
Mm-hmm.
He'd have a constant. It's like a constant entourage of people just booing him. It's kind of funny. Like that's the kind of stuff that you see in cartoons, right, or comedy shows. Just a constant entourage.
It's very frustrating for people when you're watching MSNBC, you're watching Chris Hayes, you're watching Chuck Todd, whoever it may be, CNN, and they're actually asking direct questions. To be fair here, they're asking direct questions. They're saying, "Do you support single-payer healthcare?" Bernie Sanders says, "Yes." You know why? Because that's a yes or no fucking question. And then Tom Perez goes on this spiel about values and when we put hope on the ballot, we win. I'm sure some of you guys might have seen it. Me and Jimmy made a sketch once where I play a journalist and he plays Tom Perez, and I go, "Hey Tom, what did you have for breakfast this morning?" And then he goes, when we lead with our values, everybody gets the best breakfast. And, my favorite lunch food is a turkey sandwich. And he just never – and that's what Tom Perez does. And people are really sick of it because he won't say the word single payer because, their donors don't want that. And people are seeing through it now. Not only that, but this guy is a very weak leader. There's nothing about him that strikes leadership, that
No,
strikes
you're
a
right.
direction. I mean, you can go on the Democratic website. You don't see a clear platform. They don't have clear ideas for anything. They don't have a clear idea on how to get to $15 an hour minimum wage. They just say they eventually want to see it. Well, I eventually want to see us go to Mars, but I don't have a plan on getting there, nor is it a big priority for me. And people are getting really sick of that. And they got really sick of it this past weekend in California.
Yeah, it's they're tired of the platitudes. So when Perez, whenever he goes up to speak, he's got this entourage of people that are booing him, that are chanting Medicare for all, and that's actually what happened in this video that I'm going to show you. There was a group, National Nurses United, that were saying, "Hey, Medicare for all, Medicare for all." They're leading some chants. They're leading some, protest against corporate Democrats, and then this happened.
Hey, shut the fuck up or go outside, all right?
Shut the fuck up and go outside. He was addressing the National Nurses United, the protesters. Now, so who is this guy? Well, let me give you some context, right? So this is John Burton, who is the CA Democratic. He's like a CA Democratic official. I think he was a leader in California. I'm not sure if I'm like 100% on that. So, again, he to give you some context into what he said before that, he said, I've been backing universal health care before you were born, back in the 1998. He also said, put your fucking sign down. We're all for it. But wait a minute. You obviously don't belong to that same Democratic Party, and you've got a really funny way of showing that you're for single payer. And you're factually wrong. So let me go through the Democrats, and you can add some, Ron, if I miss any. Nancy Pelosi, against single payer. That's the obvious one. Claire McCaskill, Joe Manchin. Oh, you even had the presidential candidate for the Democratic Party in 2016, Hillary Clinton, who was against Medicare for all, universal health care. She said it would never, ever happen.
Yes.
So that's funny. We're all for it. Are you? That's bullshit. Did I miss any?
And at one point in time, Hillary Clinton was. The Hillary Clinton of the early 90s sang a much different tune. And then something happened, Jeff. I don't know what that something could have been, but I have a feeling it has to do with checks from the pharmaceutical industry. And she definitely changed her tune a good bit. As did, and there were probably others in the Democratic Party that had a similar situation. Debbie Wasserman Schultz, another one that you didn't mention, she also does not support single payer. And there's graphs out there where they show you state by state, because there's a lot of single payer bills out there now. They'll show you state by state who does not support them and who does.
Howard Dean, that's another one who got bought out by the health insurance industry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, so if you're going to say you're all for it, but you have no plan on how to get there, then obviously you're not for it. And
Empty
maybe you
words.
sang a different tune in 1992. I sang a different tune in 1992. That was a while ago. I've grown a lot since then and changed as a person, as people do. So, it doesn't matter the tune you sang in the 90s. It matters the tune you're singing now. So the tune you're singing now is universal health care will never happen. The tune you're singing now is, we're all for it. We're going to strengthen the ACA. How? We don't know. We haven't thought that. We're going to strengthen it. How? Are you going to get us the public option? Well, maybe. I mean, if we would have had the public option in the first place, like we should have, then at the very least, it wouldn't have been repealed, or it would have been a hell of a hard time for the Trump administration to try to repeal it. So we at least would have had more protections, but they couldn't even get the public option. They wouldn't even give us the public option. Obama promised it. He backed out on that promise. And us on the left, and I remember it, Jeff, you remember it, we watched on the sidelines day after day as that bill got gutted. It started out as maybe a sling on a broken arm, a homemade sling, but a sling nonetheless. And at the end, it became a Band-Aid on a broken arm. The sling would have been a lot better. Still wouldn't have been a cure for a broken arm, but it would have been a hell of a lot better than the Band-Aid that we got. Although that Band-Aid is a hell of a lot better than nothing at all. Because not only did we have a broken arm before, we had a broken arm that had like a weight on top of it. So we at least got the weight off and a Band-Aid on it. But that's not enough. That's not enough. So I don't know if you're going to change the Band-Aid, that ain't going to be enough either.
Yeah.
It's time for a real cast, which is a single payer system. We had our step. So many people said, well, we need a step in between those two things. Well, you got your step. You got your step. So now's the time. And you know, I've said this plenty of times, but I think that if Democrats put single payer on the platform, I think they would dominate for the next 40 years. I really do. I mean, they have to have other stuff on the platform too, but I think you know,
but that's a big issue.
That would be a big one. That would be a big one.
Yeah. You know, the thing about that, like putting it on the platform. Now, Burton, back in 2016, when he took over, it put out a list of things that the California Democrats should stand for. One of them happens to be a belief that healthcare is a human right and support for single payer. Well, that's kind of funny. You say that if you're going to be a California Democrat, well, then you should support that. Well, Nancy doesn't support that. Nancy Pelosi is a California Democrat. Maybe you should instead yell at her, tell her to go the fuck outside, instead of yelling at those activists who are actually trying to go out there and raise the issue of you should support Medicare for all. For fuck's sake, it is an incredibly popular proposition, not just among Democrats, but among Republicans as well. It's super, super popular, and yet, no, we're going to tell the people who are protesting for that, get the fuck out of here. We don't want you here. That is the same kind of condescending tone that they sent us progressives throughout the entire primary. We don't need you. We don't want you. Get the fuck out of here with your liberal progressive ideas. You're gonna rock the boat. You're gonna make it so that it's so much harder for me to get campaign bribes from my donors. And I don't want that. I want to continue to get the money.
They tell you to shut the fuck up and get out, and then they lecture you on the importance of unity.
That's the most ironic part.
Shut up and get the fuck out. We need to unite, you guys. We need to come. Shut up, get the fuck out. We need to unite. We need to come together. Before it was, shut up, get the fuck out. We don't need you. Actually, you do.
You do. You kind of do.
You do. Oh, well, shut the fuck up and unite. Fuck you.
Yeah.
Unite, motherfucker. Unite with us.
So this is
like one of those. It's like one of those like drunk. Like a drunk bully that's like, just shake my hand, bro. I want to make peace, motherfucker. Fucking shake my fucking hand. What? Fuck you. You're not going to shake my hand, you fucking pussy. What? Fuck you. What?
This is the Democratic Party.
This does not seem like a peaceful situation.
This is the Democratic Party right here. Oh, okay. We need some unity.
Yeah. And keep in mind when you say Democrat, you're referring to the establishment and the powerful.
The corporate Democrats.
80% of people that identify as Democrats, 80% of them support Bernie Sanders' platform. 80% of them support him. I think about that many want single-payer health care. So no, this is not everybody. I mean, this is those at the top that are holding progress back. And that's why we need to make every effort to primary these people out, to start at the base level and to, really clean house on the party, because, we can't wait until, I totally like the idea of more choices. I really want to see the day where we do not have a two-party system anymore. I think it's essential that the two-party system ends. And I'm certainly not against looking into new parties, third-party options, and stuff like that. But the thing is 2018 is coming, and that's not quite enough time. So you have to have, like I've said before, you have to have an above-all approach. I support the ideas of Draft Bernie. I support the ideas of Justice Democrats, because we're all working towards the same end. Mm-hmm. And those are all important things to do. Work with the Democratic Party from within to try to clean house, to try to take it in a better direction. And then once you do that, if the corporatocracy is still around and we've at least stopped the disaster that is Trump, well, then it's like, okay, we got to go in a further progressive direction now. And I'll say this, man, when you don't have a two-party system, there's not a political party that can get away with straight up not having a platform. The Democrats really don't have a platform. That's just, I mean, I read the website like once a week or more just to make sure like I'm up to date on this. They really don't. They have a lot of platitudes and a lot of nice things that sound pretty and that sound nice. And it'd be like, yeah, it'd be great if we could have that. They have no plans. There's nothing about like we want to eliminate student loan debt, so we're going to use the pay it forward model that Australia has had success with, and the way we're going to unroll it is this and that. And we're going to ease student loan debt this way. We're going to have forgiveness here, and then from then on, certain people, 3% of your income is going to go towards making sure college is free for everybody, and it's going to benefit everyone. Blah blah blah. They're not doing that. They're not saying we're going to get to single payer and here's how. They won't even say single payer. They're not saying we're going to end the wars. And now's the time for them to saying, hey, we're going to work towards an amendment to eliminate the Electoral College. Now's the time for them to do that. That's a grossly unpopular thing in our democratic experiment. And Democrats are the ones that get fucked hardest by it. So why not? I mean, yeah, I know that's playing the long game. But if you have it in the platform, that gives people something to get behind. It gives people something to get behind. We're going to get to $15 an hour minimum wage because we need to have that sharp of a jump. We can't be like, well, eventually we'll get to 12, and then someday, well, you'll get $15 an hour. Baby steps. That's really easy to say to somebody that's never had to live on either $12 an hour or $15 an hour and can tell you there's a big fuck of a difference. And that's something easy to say to somebody that doesn't give a shit that if wages kept up with inflation, our minimum wage would be at about $20 plus an hour right now. That's easy to say to somebody that doesn't give a shit about that. But you know what? People on the left, they do. They do. And you know who else does? The working class. They do. And Democrats don't have that message. And that's why they're losing the swing states. That's why they're losing them.
And they're not going to win them back with platitudes, and they're definitely not going to win them back by saying, get the fuck out of here.
Oh.
Okay. So let's move on to more DNC bullshit. I told you, this is like a mini aggressive progressives, guys. Now, we know that Trump is not the most, he's not the most popular sitting president. He's very, very unpopular, actually. People are not happy with him. And yet, oddly enough, the Democrats are a little less popular than he is. Isn't that amazing? That, again, now add to that the fact that most people actually support progressive policies. That should give the Democrats a pretty good chance on being able to take over from the Republicans, right? 2018. Here we have a prime opportunity where you have a lot of progressives out there, a lot of activists, a lot of energy behind the progressive movement. We're talking about Medicare for all. We're talking about a living wage. We're talking about student loan reform and eliminating debt from college, which is a very, very important issue, especially to young voters, young millennials. This is a perfect opportunity to take Congress, to take the White House, to take back the state governorships and enact some real progressive change. Now, are the Democrats going to do that? I think you already know the answer. Are they going to back progressive issues? I think, again, you already know the answer to this. Now, let me give you an example of what their policy priorities are. So let's go to Florida here, where recently Sally Boynton Brown, who's the DNC's second in command, spoke in front of a group of progressives in Broward County. Now, here she's going to respond to a question about whether or not we should, as Democrats, or they should as Democrats, start backing issues and start really harping on the issues that matter to regular people.
So, first of all, I will say I'm not an issues person. I am a people person. Issues help people, but I really... anybody who knows me and has interacted with me on Facebook, issues are just not something that I get really involved in. I do believe in the platform process that our party has that define the issues that make up our party. I find it interesting that Florida doesn't create its own platform. There's not a lot of states in the nation that do that. And my understanding is that changed sometime recently. So we're under the DNC platform. So any issue questions, I will always turn back to the platform because that's where we get those. This is not going to be popular, but this is my belief of the time and place that we're in now. I believe that we're in a place where it is very hard to get voters excited about issues, the type of voters that are not voting. And I recognize, again, that's not going to be a popular stance with this crowd. At the end of the day, what really matters is what our candidates decide that they want to do. So 2 things to that. I believe the FDP needs to have an overarching identity message that we are making sure that we drive out to everybody, and that in that identity message we identify key issues, healthcare definitely being one of them, and then we educate our candidates to be able to go talk about those to the best of their ability. So I believe that the way that we have those conversations needs to drastically be different than how it has been. As Democrats, I think we continue to try to connect with voters' heads around issues and facts and truth when we are now in an era of emotional politics where people are scared and we have to figure out how to connect with their hearts.
Okay, so there's a couple of things that I draw from that, right? For one, she's not an issues person. She's a people person. Maybe she should deal with people. And it also turns out that people care about issues. And that's the other thing that she said, is that, well, it's not about they didn't really care as much about the issues. I don't think that people care about the issues. It's hard to get them excited about issues. Well, maybe you should ask Bernie Sanders about that. He ran a campaign based on issues, and he never shut up about them. And he was very specific on those issues and would go on for 2 hours about the issues facing the country. And yet he seemed to have gotten rather large crowds and about 46% of the Democratic vote during the primary.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, and I mean, I think it was Harvard, but there was a study that indicated that the Clinton campaign, they ran less issues-based ads than a lot of other presidential elections in recent history, and that was another part of why they lost. I think it goes without saying at this point, people do care about issues. I know that personality does have something to do with it. That's the reality of the United States, of the way our media structure works, where they try to create a horse race and stuff like that. But people are really hurting right now. People are hurting, and they're tired of a system that has failed them. So yeah, people do care about issues. More people are ready for single payer than ever before. 60% of Americans. We've never seen that before. The time's now. A lot of people they want to know, what are you going to do about wages? What are you going to do about the stuff impacting my community? Fracking, stuff like that. A lot of people are really alert to that stuff. And, when you see these town halls in rural areas, when you see other town halls in rural areas or other areas where, Bernie Sanders is connecting with people all across political aisles, and you see people booing their representatives, you see veterans screaming for single-payer healthcare, saying they need it. It's time, and then the politicians will throw out the platitudes against it. They'll throw out their right-wing talking points, and it's Republicans and certain Democrats are doing. I mean, Dianne Feinstein uses right-wing talking points when she throws, universal health care under the bus, saying it can't happen. People are they're not accepting it. They're not taking it. So yeah, I mean, I think to now use that, people don't really care about issues. I can understand how someone could try to have that argument because they're like, look, we elected Donald Trump. But no, in reality, part of the reason he's there is because people felt like, people felt very disenfranchised, very disconnected from our process entirely. And it's because they felt like their issues were not being spoken to by anybody.
Yeah, and there's a third thing that I wanted to add in there that she had mentioned too. We got to focus on our identity. That makes me think of more identity politics. More, we're not the Republicans, Republicans bad, which, yeah, you can definitely make a policy argument that that the Republicans are bad. But just focusing on identity politics, which again, that's what makes me think of not a winning strategy. We tried that in 2016. We lost. Bad.
Jeff, I think I've said this before. So to anybody watching that has heard me say this before, I apologize. But for anybody that has not heard it yet, get over identity politics, you sexist Bernie bro, is a sentence that has been said to me before by somebody that doesn't like Bernie or irony. That is a sentence that has been said.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's, again, wow. So later on, there were some people, and she was taking questions. There's somebody that was not pleased by her answer, and he decided to bring it back up only to get this response. I'm going to show some of the question, and then we're going to show the response. And I forgot to put the video up. Hold on.
Uh-oh.
You sort of hinted
I got it.
when you first answered, that's why the question popped up in my mind, that you felt that what got people to come out and vote wasn't really issue-oriented, and all the evidence is that's not true at all. Voter participation tends to crash, but when somebody brings out issues, that's when they come out. We saw that with Bernie Sanders, so I thought you had a contradiction there.
So I think that there's evidence to both of those things, and I don't think that we need to get into a debate about it. I believe that what we saw with Bernie was a phenomenon that did not just have to do with issues that he was talking about. I believe it is much bigger than that. Trump had a similar phenomenon, and frankly, from Justin Trudeau all the way to the future around the globe, we have seen similar phenomenons. The issues have not been the same in any way, shape, or form, and candidates haven't always focused on those issues. So I believe that people are emotionally reacting to the emotion. What happened, I believe, and again, I don't have data to back this up, but is Bernie found a core group of people who were excited about issues, and their passion and enthusiasm and energy created an emotional reaction that more people reacted to. That's what I saw from an outside perspective. That doesn't mean that there's not a core group of people that believe in issues and that really resonates with them. I believe that the majority of people who are not voting and not participating are not issues for people. I think that they are emotional beings that are struggling to make a living and need to know that somebody's going to show up and be on their side and help them.
So broken down, and I know the audio was a little hard to hear on that. So breaking it down a little bit, again, she goes back to, well, I don't really have a lot of evidence to support this, but I just don't think people who are poor, who are struggling, are issues-based voters. Really? That's strange, because generally people care about issues that affect them financially. As in like, how am I going to pay for my health care? Well, it'd be really nice if we had a single payer so that I wouldn't have to, struggle to pay my health insurance and take myself to the doctor or my kids to the doctor. That's an issue that affects poor people. And guess what? Poor people tend to care about it. In fact, everybody tends to care about it. And of course, that's the easiest example to throw out, but you could even throw out living wage. People who are poor, who are in these fast food, industry jobs, or these jobs where you're working for minimum wage, you hear the word, hey, living wage, we're going to give you $15 an hour. That's an issue they care about. So to say that they're not focused on issues and that they don't vote on issues, it's because they don't have issues that they're able to vote on, because nobody stands for those issues anymore. It's all about empty platitudes, and it's all about flowery language and political rhetoric. That's why they don't get involved. That's why they don't vote, because they don't trust that their politician is actually on their side. All that changed with Bernie Sanders, and that's why you saw so many people rally around him. It's not he had a core group of people that were very energized, and that energy ended up getting fed on by other people, and it wasn't really the issues. No, that's not what happened. That's complete bullshit. Bernie Sanders talked about nothing but the issues. And when a politician talks about important issues, especially in such detail, and skips the flowery bullshit, people listen, because that is refreshing, because they want to hear about those issues. They want to talk about those issues because those issues affect them personally. But when you're giving out, again, these empty platitudes, stronger together, breaking barriers, blah, 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 bullshit. We need some more hope. People tune right the fuck out.
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to make that. I mean, first of all, it's wrong to say so. I mean, one of the things that makes, I think, a lot of, a lot of working class people feel disconnected from Democrats in a way that they hadn't, 30 years ago or so. I mean, other than the obvious neoliberalism, is that elitism. I mean, that's a common criticism. And when you see people making statements like this, that criticism is deserved. That's a really elitist, ignorant thing to say about people. Oh, well, I don't think they care about issues. I just think they care that we're not Trump or this and that. I mean, that's a very irresponsible thing to say, and it's not helping. Getting better messaging in swing states that Democrats are not doing so great in. And it's certainly not going to help in winning back seats or anything like that, making statements like that. And yeah, I think Bernie Sanders is among a lot of what's going on that proves how not true that is. Look, there's nothing about Bernie Sanders. I mean, yeah, he's very well spoken. He's very likable. And he's a very he doesn't have a lot of skeletons in his closet. And sure, all that helps. But look, he's a 75-year-old Jewish guy from Vermont, and the only pop culture thing that he's done is make a folk album in the 70s. And as far as social movements and stuff, he's done a lot of amazing things. I mean, he did some amazing thing for the civil rights movement that the right wing tried to smear him about, but failed at. It actually ended up helping him. Because that image of him being, dragged off by cops during a protest ended up helping him, and it went viral in a good way. Yep. But yeah, I mean, it's not like I guess what I'm saying, it's not like he is some, big like celebrity, high sugar fluff cultural icon. He's just a guy that had a platform that inspired and mobilized a lot of people. So, it's really scary when you're talking about, The Rock might run for president now. I mean, Donald Trump has, really made a bigger circus out of our political process. He's not the disease. He's a symptom of a much bigger disease. It's a broken system that got us Trump. And if we don't make some huge adjustments, we're going to keep getting Trumps. But people are paying attention to issues. And, we need to get to a point where that can actually be unstifled by the powerful so that it can win.
Yeah, and let me add something. I'm not saying that emotion doesn't get factored into this. People are connected emotionally to issues.
Right.
For example, again, healthcare is a big issue. It's a policy issue, but also it's an emotional issue. Like, if you know somebody or if you're a cancer survivor yourself, that is a very emotional issue. And you're going to react very, very strongly to that, especially when you think, hey, man, I got dragged through this for-profit healthcare system. And, I don't want anybody to go through that because I went through absolute hell going through that system. I want to change it so that nobody else has to go through what I went through. That's an emotional reaction to a policy issue. But saying that, like, what she tried to do is she tried to separate emotion and policy. And that's not necessarily true because those things are intertwined, right? But the reason that I think Bernie Sanders was so successful is that he talked about those issues and related that, right? And related the issues to how they affect normal, regular people and how they affect it goes from a macro scale to a micro scale and how those decisions on the macro affect you in the micro. And I think that's a great way to connect with people. And she doesn't get it. Sally Boynton Brown does not get it. She tries to separate those two issues and tries to downplay the significance of talking about policy without any sort of data to back her up. And she said, I don't have data for this, and the guy that challenged her said, well, there is data for this, and people do care about issues, and people do care about policy.
Well, I feel bad. Sally Boynton Brown is so nice.
She seems like
She
such
really
a nice
is.
person.
She's
I
she's a very sweet woman. But
I'm not
we
doing
interviewed
this.
her.
And let me be clear. I'm not doing this so I can dump all over her or trash her or anything.
No, no,
like
no.
that.
I understand that. Yeah, no, I know you're not, and I don't think anyone's getting that impression, and I'm certainly not either. But
I hope not, because she seems
I'm
very
doing
lovely.
this. I'm doing this because I'm about to. So we interviewed her on the Jimmy Dore show, and it was very frustrating because, Jimmy asked her very basic policy questions, and she was not able to answer them.
Well, she's not a policy
not
person.
Not because she was against anything, but because she straight up didn't know. Sally Boynton Brown is more a PR specialist than anything else. And when I say that, I mean, it's her job, and she wants it to be her job, to try to, mend those bridges between, Democrats and the working class Democrats and just voters in general, so that they can, do better. And like any political party needs somebody doing that particular job. When it comes to issues, my experience in seeing her, the way she conducted herself during an interview, she literally does not know. If you asked her if she supported single payer, she would not know how to answer that, because I don't think she would fully understand what that meant exactly. And I feel bad, because, I mean, that sounds insulting, and it's really not meant to be, but that is my honest assessment of her based on this interview we did with her. Because I witnessed it. I witnessed that question being asked and her being unable to answer it. Instead, she gave a lot of platitudes, and she gave a lot of how she feels her strategy needs to be so that the Democrats can win. And she also openly admitted that that's more where she sees herself. She's more of an outreach person. That's why it's all that more irresponsible. She's making statements like that. Statements like, well, I don't think people care about issues. This isn't condescending, is it? That's why it's all the more irresponsible coming from her. But, yeah, I mean, as far as if you want an issues-driven person in politics to talk, she, based on my experience, personal first-hand experience, she is probably the worst person you could pick that I can think of, because she won't even say, well, I don't support single payer because of insert right-wing talking point here. She wouldn't know. She honestly wouldn't know.
And she said
she's a very sweet woman.
Oh yeah, no,
Very
she seems
nice
incredibly
woman.
nice. But the thing is that she's not. I mean, she admitted herself in that, in that meeting with the progressive activists. I'm not a policy person. Well, I'm a people person. But
exactly.
you have to
That's what
understand.
she said that during our interview. What the fuck does that mean?
You have to
How
understand
are you in
that
politics if you don't know something about policy?
Yeah, and the thing is, policy and people, they're kind of intertwined. You can't really you can't do policy that doesn't impact people. And so that's what we're trying to understand.
An option. I didn't know you could be like, I'm going to have a career in politics, but I know nothing about policy. Then how do you even know which party you belong to? If you know nothing about, like if you're not a policy person. And I was wondering the same thing in the interview, and I couldn't shout it out because, when we do Skype interviews, I'm just behind the board. My mic's not on at the Jimmy Dore show. But like I was like, what the fuck? How is that possible? How do you not have a platform on policies? How do you not have a stance on policies? And you're just a people person. Well, then what? How do you know you're not a Republican then? Like, how do you know? Like, you don't know.
And we're not saying that you have to be
unbelievable to me.
And we're not saying you have to be a super policy wonk either, but you have to understand the difference between a for-profit healthcare, right, and how that impacts people. For example, people who, can't afford health insurance when they fall in that donut hole, or in between, being able to afford the ACA with subsidies or without subsidies. And if you make too much, you don't get the subsidy, but you don't make enough to be able to afford your healthcare premiums. That's helpful to know. Between that kind of system and between a single-payer universal Medicare for all type of system, that's important to know. That's important policy, or how going for a living wage impacts the people who are currently working for $7.25 an hour, the federal minimum wage. So it's important to know the impact of policy on people. And so that's where she needs to she needs to read up. She can't just go out there and say, I'm not a policy person, I'm a people person. Well, your policies impact people, and people want to know how it's going to impact you, how it's going to impact them, okay? And so do some research, do some reading. You want to get better at your job, you want to do a great job, and I think you do. I think she's earnestly trying her best, and I don't think she has any ill intention. And that's my read of the situation.
I really don't. I mean, I feel bad saying this about her, but
she needs to. I think
it's one thing to say I'm not a policy expert.
Yeah.
That's one thing. I mean, I'm not a policy. I mean, I don't consider myself an expert in anything. I mean, I'm learning every day, just like everybody else. And I've said some things that, looking back later, I'm like, I should have framed that differently or whatever. But if you woke me up from a dead sleep and say, Ram, what do you want to see in this country? I would say I want to see single payer healthcare. I want to see us eliminate the student loan debt issue, and I want to see free college. And here's some ideas on how we could best get there in a way that's fair for the populace. Using the pay it forward method and so forth. I want to see us end the wars. I think this interventionist is morally wrong, and it's grossly economically irresponsible too. It's wrong on every front. I think that needs to end. I think we need to seek more diplomacy. I think we need to have a Green New Deal. We need to invest in renewable energy, because in the long run, fracking and all this reliance on oil is just a Band-Aid over a broken arm in terms of our energy. I would be able to say all that. That doesn't mean I'm necessarily an expert, but I'd be able to say, if you're in politics and you can't say that, if you can't be woken up from a day, hey, what do you want to see in this country? And you go, boom, 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 boom. If you can't do that, you shouldn't be in politics. And you should not be in politics if you can't do that. There can be policy people that are more policy experts than you, and maybe you specialize in something different. But if you're totally in it, look, I will say I'm not a tech expert. Okay, in terms of being a content creator, which both you and I are for livings, Jeff. I'm not the tech guy, right? Meaning that if something really goes wrong with a camera or the soundboard or something like that, I usually need to call our tech guy and I need to say, hey, what's going on? Or if he's there, he's better at troubleshooting that than I am. Or the sound guy, if it's a live show, whatever it may be. But if you put me behind a soundboard and you put me behind a camera, I'll be able to adequately operate it to the point where stuff will be created. Because if I couldn't at least do that, well, then I need to get like a different real specialized gig where I only do something creative or something like that. Like it's not an option to not have some know-how. So when you're going to be a politician, you don't have the option to have nothing on policy. Like you just can't. Like it doesn't make any sense to me that she just. I don't think she knows. And I saw this woman. Maybe she was having a really awful day.
Maybe
the day of that interview, and maybe she just had like an enormous brain fart, or the night before she took some really bad drugs. I don't know, but I've never seen somebody running for anything, with exception to student council president when I was in high school, that when you asked them what they stood for, what their issues were, they had nothing to say. And I don't understand how you can be in politics at all. I mean, even if you have a platform that is the total opposite of mine, at least you got a fucking platform. Yeah, I mean, holy shit.
And her thing is that she said later on is that, well, I'm just going to leave that to the people that are running.
Yeah, but it's unreal.
But I mean, how do you know that
this is the person that we're counting on this person to connect with people? We're counting on them to recruit more people into this party, and they can't tell you what the party is for, and they tell you that you don't care about issues.
But you want to be part of the Democratic Party? Oh, what do you guys stand for in the Democratic Party? We're not really sure. We're not really sure what we stand for. Then why do I want to join your party?
Oh shit, man.
What are the issues that you stand on? I'm not really sure about that. You're gonna have to go to somebody else for that. Yeah, but you're trying to reach out to me. You want me to join your group? Well, I just want to know what your group stands for. And so she needs to, in my personal opinion, again, this isn't a rag on her, but I think she needs to do a little bit of study of what the Democratic Party stands for and to be more forthcoming with those policy issue-based questions like, I believe that everybody should have health care, and we could do it through a Medicare for all system. That would be a great answer. Very simple. You don't have to be a policy wonk to know that, to know exactly the specifics and how it 100% works. We have a more of a detailed policy proposal with, check out HR 676 that's going through the House right now. That's more of a detailed policy proposal because it's actual policy that they're going to vote on. So check that out. That's what we stand for. That would be a great answer instead of, I don't really know policy.
Not a policy person. What? You're in politics. People
I know, right?
Lean to you. They count on you to be a leader, and you can't say what a policy is. Yeah, this is real. This is real. We're not making this shit up.
So 2018 looks pretty bleak.
Wow.
Okay. Do you want to go on?
I kind of gotta roll here soon. We're already 15 minutes past.
Yeah, we're way over time today. So what we're gonna do? I got a great story on Rahm Emanuel and Bernie Sanders campaigning with Rob Quist. I think I'll do that tomorrow. Although the Quist story, there's a special election coming up, like Thursday. So that's kind of that's a story I need to get out now. So if you're going to join me, awesome. If not, thank you so much. We'll see you next week.
Yeah, I should bounce here. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure.
All right. We'll see
Take
you.
care.
See you next week, man.
All right.
Take
Later.
it easy. So I want to do this story about Rob Quist before I head out here for the day. So we'll do this last one. All right. So there's a special election going on in Montana. Now, this is between Rob Quist and a billionaire named Greg Gianforte, or Gianfort. Not sure how to say that, so sorry, Greg. Now, he's, of course, trying to take over the seat that was left by Ryan Zinke, who was put into the Trump administration. So this is a Republican seat that's open, and here you have a progressive Rob Quist who's running for that seat. And he has the backing of Senator Bernie Sanders. So that's awesome. In fact, last weekend, Bernie Sanders spent the weekend campaigning for Quist because, again, he's actually a real progressive, and he has a good chance of winning. Now, just like we saw in Kansas, however, the Democratic Party, the DNC, well, they're actually haven't gotten involved. They haven't really campaigned for Quist. And just like in Kansas, this is actually going to be a pretty close race. Now, in fact, Quist just passed $5 million in donations, which is a pretty significant amount of money, especially for one of these local races. Now, Roll Call has a race not quite close enough to call it a toss-up, but nowhere near the margin of victory that was originally expected. Again, this is Montana. This is a very conservative area. And here comes Rob Quist. So, now, let me read a little bit from Roll Call here. He said... it said that there isn't enough evidence that the candidates are neck and neck to justify a toss-up, but there is enough uncertainty in the special election turnout with the previous special election races as a backdrop for us to change our inside elections rating of the Montana race from likely Republican to tilts Republican. Again, I'm seeing a parallel here, just like with the Kansas race. That was an incredibly close race that was lost to the Democrat, to a progressive, by 7 points. 7 points. This could be another one of those. This could be close. He could even win this. It is entirely possible. In fact, you know how many people turned out for Bernie Sanders and Quist over the weekend? According to Senator Sanders' office, more than 12,500 Montanans came out to see Sanders and Quist at rallies in Missoula, Butte, Billings, and Bozeman Saturday and Sunday ahead of Thursday's special election. Now, I want to give you a little bit of a clip of one of these rallies so you can see the excitement that's going on whenever Bernie Sanders comes up to speak.
And I don't want to get you all very nervous, but the eyes of America and actually the eyes of many people throughout the world, are looking right here at the great state of Montana and what's going to happen on Thursday. And what people are asking, is it possible for working people in the middle class to stand up and defeat the big money interest and the billionaires who are pouring millions into this election?
And the Republicans have put in a lot of money into this election, into Greg Gianforte. Now, that's interesting because, again, they had 12,500 Montanans show up to these rallies. I don't think his opponent's getting that. And certainly when you look at the Democratic Party, you're also having unity rallies where Tom Perez can't get 12 people to show up. And if they do, half of them actually boo at him. Now, it turns out that in a lot of these states, if you run progressives, you actually have a better chance of winning because you're actually offering people a choice. And that's what we're doing in these special elections. That's why, like, the DNC doesn't fund these progressive candidates. Oh, they're never going to win. What's the point of wasting resources? Well, the point is to actually get people involved in the political process. Right now, so many people across the nation look at the Democratic Party and say, well, they don't care about us. They have abandoned us. They don't care about our values. They don't care about our issues. And they continuously leave us without much of a choice. Or we end up running a corporate right-winger because they, for some reason, think that let's run right-wingers in these areas that aren't quite as right-wing as their opponent, but pretty right-wing. Well, let's run these guys. And you think that that's a choice? You think that's giving the people a choice? Instead, now what Bernie Sanders is doing and what Rob Quist is, Rob Quist is a progressive. And you're actually giving people a choice. And when you give people a choice, you get more turnout. This is why this went from a likely Republican to a tilting Republican. And this could end up being a very, very big upset, just like what we were seeing in Kansas. I mean, now, again, Democrats love to tell you, and cable news and all them, the corporate Democrats, I should say, they love to tell you that we need to go centrist and right-wing to win elections. This would be, if he wins, this would be another way to beat back that narrative. That no, and we could run progressives and we could actually win in these areas that are not considered at all to be progressive, that are red states, that are Republican areas. And look, a lot of people, Republicans included, are open to progressive ideas. For example, I always go back to single payer, where you have a majority of Republicans that are in favor of Medicare for all. And now, even if Quist doesn't win, the fact that he caught up a pretty big lead in the polls against his opponent says a lot. That the states that the Democratic Party has abandoned as a whole for their national strategy are still competitive. And that if you run as a progressive, you stand a better chance than an establishment corporate Democrat that runs to the right. Now, this election, this is on Thursday. Okay, so if you are in Montana and you're a progressive and you're watching this, well, don't just vote. Get your entire family out there. Get them out to vote. Everybody you know, get them out to the polls. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to be able to get a progressive into office and to actually try to enact some sort of progressive change and to send the establishment Democrats a message that you will win if you run as a progressive. Let's get it done. Okay, so that's it. Super long show for you today, as we often end up doing on Tuesdays. So thank you, everybody, for going around the nation with me. Thank you to Ron Placone, of course, for sitting in for most of the show. I do want to give a couple of shout-outs before I head out here. Gloria Mendez, thank you for becoming a patron. Katie Pine, thank you, Katie. And Joe Perry, thank you all for supporting us. Patreon.com/TYTNation if you want to continue to support independent progressive media. Thank you so much, everybody who's donated to help keep us on the air. You guys are amazing. So thank you so much. So we'll be back tomorrow. We'll have a great show for you guys then. So tune in 3 p.m. Eastern, 3 to 4 p.m. right here, TYT Nation. Make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you then. Remember, love you guys, and we'll see you tomorrow. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, TYT Nation.